Alright. The bizarre lore of rabbits.
Not too smart creatures that exist purely to be silly and cause slapsticky chaos. However, for thousands of years, they, as a species, have actually been massive threats to the safety of the universe as a whole. So join me today as we go through how these creatures have left such a massive impact to everything they touch. Hi everybody, I'm here in my sky bunker. A bunker is nice and all, but this one is in the sky.
Luckily, I
Plus,
don't
last
know
time I
much of
checked, you
rabbits.
can't have fires in the sky, which is a good thing, because when it comes to pyrokinesis, man oh man, I'm worse than Spencer Shea making spaghetti tacos. So the Rabbids are a bit of a controversial franchise in a lot of aspects, though I can respect their origins but also despise them. I felt like deciphering all of this was never meant for a single goon like me. This story begins like any story does, in the dawn of time, to right before the Ice Age. Going through all this in chronological order is kinda tricky, but I'm gonna try my best and talk about specific entries when they release because it gets really convoluted really fast.
Like, what is the lore to rabbits? Like, I've always known they've been a thing, but like, why? And how? G-Series Ubisoft made? No, actually, though.
Essentially, the rabbits are an invasive species that I can best compare to some of the higher-end Homo sapiens in intelligence, like chimps or orangutans, but way more chaotic. But they weren't always like this. See, millions of years ago, the rabbits achieved a perfect society, and were about the same as how we commonly know them now, but with facial hair when it comes to looks. For potentially
Facial
millions
hair?
of years, the rabbits were the dominant species of Earth, essentially just being better humans and likely traveling through space based on the rabbit UFOs, assuming that they originated on Earth to begin with. Unfortunately, the Ice Age gives them brain damage, doing them all as a whole and resetting all their brain power progress. One extremely important prehistoric rabbit, the hibernation rabbit, also known as Scribbles, also known as the Lapin Bernatus, the Red Beard, and Mr. Beardy Face, I'm just gonna call him Scribbles because that's the easiest one to say,
Okay.
actually survives the brain damage by being frozen for millions of years and maintaining all his smart juices. This is by far the most important rabbit in all of existence. And now real quick, I gotta take a skinny dip into 2013 because in the show Rabbids Invasion, I'm gonna talk about the show later, just not now, don't worry about it. The episode Jurassic Rabbit sees Scribbles getting thawed out, only to immediately be ashamed by his far-off descendants, with the major differences being height, Scribbles having a deeper voice, and speaking some sort of Rabbitese language outside of just blah, which is the only thing rabbits can say. In the midst of this depression, Scribbles would create the most detrimental thing for the rabbits to gain access to, that being the time washing machine. And this washing machine is
The
simply
time
put
washing
a
machine?
very special washing machine. It's fully capable of time travel and all that
What
shabizzy
the
biz.
hell?
The Rabbids universe timeline is linear. There's only one. It's not like your BS and MCU. It's your classic Back to the Future one where any goof of any capacity can and will ruin anything in the timeline. And with this wonderful new invention, I can take a whole bunch of creative liberties just like the Rabbids can. If there's any jumps in logic, character traits, or ambitions of the Rabbids, we're just gonna say the time traveling thing that does laundry did it. After 2013, we got September 1st, 1995 to November 19th, 2006. This is Rayman. He has no limbs because the nice lady who
Rayman?
used magic to make him
Why
was
is he here?
overwhelmed by the sheer thought of having to create elbows. In the Glade of Dreams, Rayman exists to protect all its creatures from any and all darkness alongside his pals like Glowblocks, who in this
Yo, I
discussion
love
does not
Rayman.
matter in the slightest, but his goblin kiddos sure do. After leaving the love of his life when a tiny species called the Mini Villas crawl into his scalp and gives him magic hair, Rayman fills that broken heart with a family picnic with Glowbox's kids. And then rabbits erupt out of the ground, he offers food to them, only to be captured by Ew, who's this little guy? This is Sergway. In my opinion, one of the most physically threatening rabbits. He captures the picnic doers and for the next 2 weeks, along with the rest of the rabbits, indulge in forcing the captured people in slave labor. Rayman is forced into a seemingly endless amount of survival games for their entertainment, including hammer throwing a cow, doing silly dance-offs, and delivering a time
they have their
explosive
own
across a
game
beach.
together?
According to the Game Boy Advance version of this game, the rabbits following the Ice Age were a peaceful bunch, only becoming violent and eventually dumber simply from being bullied by the entire animal kingdom. Long story short, they started out perfect and are devolving more and more as time continues. basically being these stubby, fuzzy cavemen as we know now. When first introduced to the Rabbids, a lot of them are
That's
varying in
crazy.
sizes and
I
body shape.
know
At this
they
point,
had
there's
one
no
with
real leader,
Mario.
but there is another important Rabbid by the name of Professor Barranco, who only exists to get their shit rocked in minigames. Yet slowly but surely, Rayman rescues the Globlings and eventually makes his escape through the use of a plunger ladder, ending this adventure with the realization that all the disgusting frog pals are going to end up taking his place in the survival trials, immediately determining that going back is the only option. This goes nowhere. November 13th, 2006,
Okay.
Professor Barranco makes a clone. This clone does not matter, but one of the two Barrancos
Oh,
after this
okay.
makes another clone named Professor Barranco 3. Not the third, just Professor Barranco 3. And they are the closest thing to an autocratic leader from this point on, controlling any available Rabbids under an aggressive and ambitious monarchy and military. Within about 30 seconds under Barranco 3's control, they have successfully taken over the Earth, starting with major worldwide monuments through aggressive use of plungers and their flying yellow submarines.
the
The
hell?
Glade of Dreams in this version of Earth are not the same thing. However, Rayman and the Rabbids can travel between them anyway. Rayman disguises himself as a rabbit and successfully infiltrates their evil base of a local mall, and once again is part of their goofy antics in order to defeat the Rabbids. He fails. Like, actually, he just kinda loses. There's no ending that confirms Rayman does anything, and from this point, the Rabbids take over the White House and all of the country's
White
resources right under
House?
former President George W. Bush's nose. But they immediately give up after getting a parking ticket because everybody knows submarines aren't allowed on the White House lawn. This is an appropriate time to discuss this, but another prominent Rabbid characteristic is when their eyes turn red. If this
Okay.
ever happens for any reason, run the hell away. This means that something has triggered inside the rabbit's head like stress or confusion, leading to violent adrenaline rushes that rely purely on instinct, usually meaning bad things. Also, from this point on, the massive army that Barranco 3 held just falls apart, like immediately, just from most of them being distracted by the wonders of Earth and life and deciding not to return. November 13th,
They took a
2008,
vacation.
exactly 2 years after their first attack on the Glade of Dreams, comes TV Party. Rayman is running for his limbless little life after goofing up on the Rabbid army infiltration, being chased down by a small group to his house because Rayman's a homeowner for some goddamn reason. But then, the Rabbids get struck by lightning and traps them in Rayman's TV. And for the next couple days, they basically just annoy Rayman until he damages the TV enough and Rayman has to run away again. Now, I'm not really one to make claims, but if Rayman, a character who in his second
Bro,
game
he
took
should've
down
just
an
left.
entire robot pirate army that kept roughly 50,000 Glade of Dreamers as slaves, the fact that he runs away in fear from a small horde of Rabbids is definitely a bad sign. He has seen some shit. In fact, other than some of his own adventures, Rayman is officially basically out of the story. Occasionally they've shown up in some of his games, but otherwise the Rabbids have forgotten
I
about
have
their
no
obsession with him.
idea.
November 1st, 2009. For this year's November historical
Where's
event
the
related to these little
correlation?
cretins, a small band of Rabbids decide that they want to go home. Now, despite
Like,
the
why
title,
him?
this isn't necessarily their main home. I would argue the Earth or Glade of Dreams are more homey than the moon, but whatever. This could also just be a reference to East Asian or Chinese culture of the moon rabbit. Normally I wouldn't point out Chinese folklore, but I have a feeling
What
that
is your
China
house
is
there,
eventually
my
going to
TV?
get assaulted
For
by rabbits for
real.
even remotely vaguely at all associating
give
with
her the
rabbits
TV.
and the moon. Using human stuff and especially shopping carts, these rabbits eventually go home, meaning that they have officially reached outer space by blowing up a trash mountain that they make throughout the entire game with Capri Suns and all that stuff. This victory is the equivalent of chopping down a single tree in a forest, for the humans at least. As weird as it might seem, this game specifically is the one I would argue is the most important, or at least one of the most important. Rabbids lessen in aggression and rarely get red eyes from this point on. Their body shapes and sizes begin to become more consistent compared to each other, and they begin to travel throughout this whole wacky, wide universe once again. I don't like the idea of them being able to travel across the universe, but cool. November 10th, 2010, a single rabbit manages to get its hands on a time washing machine and eventually causes irreversible damage to all of history. It travels basically
What
anywhere
the
in the
hell?
past and eventually ends up in the year 4096. And Barranco 3 is back again. Oh golly gee
So
willikers, 3 is planning an assault
Wow.
on space-time, but the rabbit quite literally pulls the plug and accidentally gets itself caught into a time loop. We've all been there. What are you gonna do about it? December 26, 2011. For the first time in the past 5 years, the Rabbids have decided to not commit war crimes around Thanksgiving, instead letting us enjoy Christmas, and then be nuisances. A bootleg Mafia City character is drinking Sprite and accidentally drops his phone into the super trash can, where it's revealed that Barranco 3 still has Rabbids under control, just all now living underground and plotting world domination once again. They've discovered STEM but still chew on glass. These are the smartest dumb things to ever exist. A scientist rabbit is trying to discover sex. There's a population shortage in this rabbit state, and Barranco 3
What? To try to discover why are they trying to discover what sex is?
needs to learn where babies come from. He blends a cow and they do it. Those damned rabbits figure out mitosis, and in seconds the streets are quite literally flooded with rabbits. And all of this is for a Kinect game. By the way, this game's on the Xbox Kinect, and once again, there's just nothing that goes on after this population boom. There's no ending, just preparing the species for an invasion that would not happen for another 2 years. November 13th, 2012. Rabbids Rumble. I'm not kidding, this is just a minigame collection. There is no story here, no introduction, no ending, no returning Rabbids of any kind. November 18th, 2012. Rabbids Land. Another simplish game to comprehend. Somehow the Rabbids have taken over their very own theme park. A lot of the stuff that happens here is about what you would expect at this point. One rabbit can't get into the park, and also at least one UFO exists outside of Barranco's underground country, and it's being controlled by a Wii U gamepad. Nothing bad happens when a large machine is controlled by a game controller. Nothing. Nothing. Surely nothing. Now here's the real chunky chalupa, the real big banana, the top tonsil. It's time to talk about where all of these stories finally actually collide, only kind of sort of really though. From August of 2013 to now, I guess, this might still be running actually. Here's Rabbids Invasion. And oh me oh my, there is 4 seasons and over 200 7-minute long segments. Going through each of them would be a nightmare. Surely no one would go through each and every single episode just to see if there was anything, right? Right? Right! You'd be right. I did, however, read all their plot synopsises, and at most, about a fifth of all the content was worth mentioning if generous, and those episodes I did watch. Most of these adventures will follow the Rabbids in a given part of the world, causing chaos to anyone they meet with anything they obtain. Barranco 3 has essentially retired, occasionally appearing in some episodes with permanent aggression from his red eye, but otherwise he's just a dick instead of being silly and wacky. We also got a big bunch of new faces. For the first time, humans start reoccurring between episodes. Some of them include a character named Zach, who likes hunting rabbits a bunch, Zoe, who does that but again, and then John, who works at this place called Nebulous Labs. He, alongside another worker named Gina, study the Rabbids further to understand what they're capable of and how the dickens they almost managed to take over the planet several times over. Some tests go over how they'll segregate each other if they're different colors, they can travel through each other's dreams and the dreams of others, and they seem to have a stupidly high amount of luck regardless of any situation. Scribbles is also important again, and it's implied that all important technological advances such as the flying submarines, UFOs, weaponry, and any success post-Ice Age was because of Scribble's totally tubular time traveling time, though at some point the original washing machine stops being used somewhere in 2018, so at some point in time Scribbles loses the washing machine and it does actually return. But not yet, we're gonna have to talk about that later. One jolly day, this small company called Netflix took away the funny bunnies from the SpongeBob channel, and then they made 2 things: Season 4 and a connected movie. Season 4 specifically follows one larger group of rabbits searching for Pretzel Island, led by the Mad Rabbit, who may or may not be the same rabbit as this one who was chewing on glass and alive and kicking because of this weird bald spot where a suction thingy was before, and both being smart, you know, it just makes sense to me. On their expedition, some rabbits speak proper English after accidentally warping themselves into a parallel universe. They save the president and commit several classic traumatic atrocities, but in the end, they somehow manage to find Pretzel Island, where it's revealed that Scribbles was already there. Though because earlier the Mad Rabbit ruined Scribbles' research of making a pretzel plant, Scribbles hates him now and there's a big ol' ruckus. Yet somehow the robot on the submarine named Secure X that Scribbles created, and even though Scribbles has priority as the submarine king compared to the other rabbits, this robot has a change of heart and accidentally makes Scribbles stupid, which is seemingly the final point of this rabbit's time-traveling adventures. Not the timeline, just Scribbles' antics. Going based on this graying facial hair, as tragic as it might be, this could be implied to be Scribbles' last time traveling or anything, just slowly dying around the 2020s and having a grand old time with an acorn brain. Though even though this is the end of Scribbles, this isn't the end of Scribbles. On September 19th, 2021 is the movie. Yes, you heard me. The movie. Mission to Mars. So based on the color of Scribbles' hair, he either time traveled again, or this movie takes place before the events of Season 4, despite being released after. I'm gonna assume the former though, because explaining that his timeline looks like this is objectively a tad funnier. Imagine having time travel adventures and deciding that, oh yeah, I'm gonna retire in the 2020s. Scribbles is planning an expedition to Mars to go hang out with aliens until his ship gets destroyed and he runs away. At Nebulous Labs, John and the rest of the company is planning an expedition to Mars to make Earth 2 exclusively with a team of Rabbids as astronauts for being able to endure harsh climates and radiation. Unfortunately, throughout the past decade, in a totally unrelated mobile game called Rabbids Big Bang, they've already been doing that. So, yeah, a little bit too late for Rabbids space travel, Nebulous Labs. Scribbles eventually finds himself on the team, which was his goal, in part from this tiny rabbit named Minnie, who was shrunk in a not time-traveling washing machine in the show beforehand, breaks an airplane window in the middle of a zero-gravity test, which ends up throwing most of the candidates to their possible demise. Mid-mission, it's revealed that Frank Nebula, the CEO or owner, or the very, very smart the head man of the Nebulous Labs, is quite the dick biscuit. And this mission to Mars is a suicide mission where he's gonna nuke the planet and kill all of the aliens to make colonization a bit easier, adding that the Rabbids were expendable, partially chosen to sell merch, and could actually survive the radiation. They actually had a chance of making it out anyway. Miraculously, the alien leader, King Martin, eats the bomb, he just chops it down, and becomes this thing, but luckily calms down after watching the hit show Sunny Love Beach. The gang all goes back to Earth, makes Frank cut that nonsensical bullshit off, King Martin turns into the giant thing again, but they stop it again, freezes Frank out forever and ever and ever, and then all is good, and Scribbles realizes that he's loved and happy. But at that exact same time across the planet, there's another slightly older and stupendously stupid Scribbles being a lovable little vegetable. One thing you may or may not notice about the Rabbids throughout all this time is that they have continued to separate further and further apart. And just like Scribbles emphasized, the Rabbids have universally continued to get less and less hostile and less intelligent. A good amount of Rabbids don't even get the red eyes anymore. They've split off from any major empire to something more like less aggressive but durable raccoons. Ultimately, they've reached levels of danger to like stray dogs, yet in most occasions they can still really easily do harm and find their ways into things that they definitely probably shouldn't be a part of. They've been stumbling around in Stumble Guys. In Smash Bros, one of them gets decapitated to be a hat. For honor, they've been around since the start of time. Is anyone shocked that they're partaking in medieval warfare? Card games, Versailles, coding, a wild race, panicking in a volcano TNT run, getting helplessly thrown around in your Wii remote. Shockingly enough, these are the things that harm the Rabbids the most. Arguably, one of the craziest things to be caused by the Rabbids has to be on August 29, 2017. A genius inventor named Cassidy Vale invents a headset that can fuse any two things without issues. Suddenly it has issues and Cassidy takes a break. But all those damn rodents in their original time washing machine come back and destroy everything, fusing most if not all of them together with the most dangerous thing possible: Super Mario merch. Somehow the washing machine riggedy wrecks all the Rabbids by transforming the washing machine into an also washing machine teleporter to the Mushroom Kingdom and Mario Land, by proxy making the Catalyst Rabbit who fused anyone, whose name is now Spawny, this freakishly tiny rabbit of peaceful-ish intentions, continuing to fuse the totally neutral Rabbids with bad vibes and bad things, and scattering Mario and that entire franchise everywhere possible. The fusing also permanently enhances certain Rabbids, specifically the ones dressed like their respective Mario characters. As the spin-off of a spin-off continues, these Rabbids slowly but surely evolve into more or less parodies of their fused characters. The remainder of this adventure sees the 8 heroes coming back to rebuild this partly destroyed world, fighting off corrupted Rabbids and enemies along the way, like a Rabbid Kong, a Rabbid fused with Donkey Kong stuff, and the Phantom, who absolutely decimates Mario's reputation through singing. Eventually, the Rabbids who once managed to take down Paris in 14 seconds have joined forces with Super Mario to save everything that exists ever, defeating Bowser along with the Mega Bug that Spawny created, which is like this big bad fusey thing, and saving the day and going hip hip hooray. Wow, this adventure specifically took a long time. In fact, it took exactly 328 days, so now it's June 26, 2018. I bet Rabbid Peach's phone could go for a recharge. Dang, never mind. Rabbid Peach and this Roomba companion thingy named Beepo gets sent to Donkey Kong Island on accident, where she gets rescued by Cranky Rabbid and Donkey Kong. Whoa, yeah! You're good, Donkey Kong. So cool, I love Donkey Kong. The three of them need to save the island by destroying the corrupted bananas found across it, ending off by making peace with a depressed Rabbid Kong and eventually sending Rabbid Peach and Beebo home. In June 30th, 2022, a large horde of Rabbids travels back to ancient China. I told you they were gonna regret even remotely vaguely associating with the Rabbids. The Rabbids find themselves in the world of Journey to the West, a famous Chinese story, and replace major characters and people in the story like the Monkey King in another minigame collection, this time with lots of four-way duels to the death as they slowly just find their way rewriting all of Chinese culture due to losing all the sacred books from paradise, as the game puts it at least, and eventually returns the books to the Awakened One, who is holding their washing machine hostage until then. They all fight over a discovered golden plunger except for one rabbit who they leave behind. Okay then. Honestly, I'd make fun of China for getting absolutely decimated by the Rabbids, but in the 2000s they managed to take over the entire planet, so honestly, are we really too shocked? And ending off, jumping back to the Mario Rabbids, we have October 22nd, 2018. Mario and his pals are hanging out until they aren't. This is a spark, and before you start filing a restraining order at these things specifically, at least a couple minutes before the sparks flew into the Mushroom Kingdom, another group of Rabbids appear on another time washing machine, or the same one. I don't know, they use this washing machine. Somehow they perfectly recreated a portal to the Mario universe. What are the odds? I don't know. It's infinite time. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. It's Rabbids. It's okay. The Mario character Rosalina finds them in the Comet Observatory with her companions, the Lumas. And for literally the first time in history of anything ever, the Rabbids perfectly get along with Rosalina without a single issue. They're super pals. But then, part of the Megabug from the first game that escaped to space and got space powers, now called Cursa, tries to ambush them. Rosalina manages to save everyone before being corrupted, and all the Rabbids and the Lumas present fuse into sparks. Unfortunately, the Rabbid DNA is too overwhelming and the sparks have too much power to keep evil things alive, so Cursa has gotta go. All the Mario team, except Yoshi, travel to half a dozen planets, defeating Cursa's spark hunters, who are exactly what they sound like. They hunt sparks. Then they go to Cursa, separating it from Rosalina, save the Super Mario Galaxy, and then all is back to normal. For about 15 minutes, Madame Boistrella summons you to climb the Tower of Doom because Spawny is being held hostage again, and then all is good again, and this time I'm serious, because the second DLC takes place mid-game, so I've already talked about it, so yeah. And here we are now. The final DLC of this game is releasing at the end of August of 2023. At this point, we don't actually know how it ends, we just know that Rabbid Peach and Rabbid Mario have been sent to a movie set called the Space Opera Network, also working along with Rayman. Holy shit, what? Hopefully there's an explanation to him being here, which I doubt, because Rayman hasn't really been associated with Rabbids for a while. And I'm just gonna come out and say it, I really just want more Rayman stuff, dude. Like, all the Rayman games are fun. I just wish it balanced out more with the Rabbids. They got 4 seasons of a show. Rayman got 4 episodes. These goobers have fibbed up Rayman's legacy, but fellas, hopefully this DLC is really cool and does well. It already seems to be a nice bit of fan service from all 3 franchises appearing. Hopefully the Phantom, who's the main antagonist, makes an entire 40-minute opera to absolutely obliterate Rayman's reputation, and hopefully the Rabbids come full circle and finally befriend Rayman permanently. Because deep down, I know Rayman still hasn't forgiven the Rabbids. Look at those eyes. You can tell. They are an odd little bunch, aren't they? Going from the original dominant species of our planet to the dumbest successful army since Napoleon at Austerlitz, to a bunch of goofballs that have a sprinkle of an idea of the manifest destiny, to basically large pests that do Tom and Jerry stuff, to friends of Super Mario. I can't believe that's all it took to calm down the Rabbids. It was Luigi. They've mostly redeemed their terrors across the 2000s Luigi. And all of time, but basically these guys have gotten to where they are now because of some unique DNA, traits, and a lot of luck. If there's any continuation, seeing Barranco or Scribbles, especially in another Mario Rabbids game, would be a really good idea, seeing how they could advance the story that is, at this point, technically unfinished. These guys love cows, lingerie, especially plungers. They love those toilet sticks. And now they love Rayman, which is good. Because as much as I like the Rabbids and all the hell that was comprehending how they straight up just have access to an infinite amount of time machines, I hope that we can truly go back to Rayman and Raymanville and the Glade of Dreams and Rayman's house. And these things, I guess. Because Rabbids have done quite enough. And I love them. I love both series. But come on. Some more Rayman would be nice, because the Rabbids are like if Tuck and Roll from Bug's Life got their own franchise with an endless amount of them that get harmed and in some cases brutally killed off for nothing more than giggles and teehees. Hey, wait a minute! Time travel is fun to talk about. I'd be okay with talking
True.
about it again because I'm officially making a new personal rule where if I ever have to talk about time travel in some sort of deep way, I get to make some celebration smoke. Not like fires are gonna happen in the sky. Oh. You thought I was gonna make a campfire in a sky bunker? No, I'm just gonna smoke with my cigarette. That's right, I smoke occasionally. That's my new character trait of this episode. Yeah, I smoke sometimes. You shouldn't, but I'm a cartoon, so it's fine. It's not like that's gonna burn down my sky bunker or anything.
2 minutes later.
See, what did I tell you?
Okay. They do need to release more Rayman, because I remember I loved playing through Rayman Origins. That game was peak.